it'll all be for COVID, but it is around and amongst us as it was last year at this particular time. So good to be with you this morning here on the high plains of Gascony County. Gus is going to be coming in here shortly, I hope. And it's been a while since he's been on the show with me, but we're going to talk about a lot of things happening in the beef industry right now, and going to go through that and the processing and how things are in his business world. But great for you to be along with a good snowy day. So pick up a cup of coffee or hot chocolate, and we're going to have some good discussions as we proceed during the day. We hope that your New Year's was good. We were very fortunate here at the White Mule to serve a lot of people. One of the events that I happened to miss because I didn't want to infect anybody, with the upper respiratory, but we trusted you had a great New Year's, and we're off in 2022. Looked at the news this morning, and it kind of almost to some degree deja vu in regard to what happened last January the 6th. There's a lot of things going on there, and where is this all going to? I'm not exactly sure. And the last time I was on the air with you, I kind of talked about me making some predictions, and I thought a lot about that. But the simple fact of it is, I don't think nobody knows exactly where things are headed. But let's just think through Trump and Trumpism, and what elements are the same in that situation, and what elements have changed. I know right now that in Washington D.C. the committees that are looking into January the 6th have made some recommendations, and it appears to be pretty solid recommendations. But what I've reviewed and looked at, there's going to be more security there, there's going to be more transparency, and apparently they're going to utilize the intel in a better way than they had before. So those are important things, because no matter where we are in this particular situation, the safety of our lawmakers and the safety of the presidency, the vice presidency, and the administration, and our elected people are tremendously important. If we get all of those in one particular building at one time, and it is concerning, that they remain safe, and people, that have issues in regard to the election, those particular things, need to dial back a lot. Anybody that I think that has did a criminal act needs to be treated as a criminal, and needs to be prosecuted, and the full impact of the law put forth to them, because that's really all we are in America. That's really all that we have been, is a law of nation, a nation of laws, I should say, and following those are at the core of our democracy, but they're also at the core of everything that we believe in America. And you start deteriorating, or if the rule of law is not upheld, it's going to destroy every function and every facet of our government. Our economy, our global dominance. Those things are first and foremost on my mind as we look ahead here. We need to make sure that we remain vigilant on having, global dominance in regard to our politics, in regard to our economy. If not, I think we all realize the suffering of the consequences that may be there. So what do I think? What do I think for 2022? I think Trumpism and the value that Trump brought to the U.S. is real. I think his way that he stood up to many of his adversaries is respectable, and I think in an awful lot of situations he made exactly the right decisions at that particular time. And I think most of us Republicans respect those particular elements of it. I think and as far as the economic situation, we've never seen a better time, rolling back the regulations, dealing with those particular kind of things. We all think he did a great job. I think Republicans to somewhat disagree, not very much, but they disagree on what happened January the 6th, and Mike Pence himself said he thought that would be a thing that him and Trump would probably never, ever agree upon, or the elements that happened that day. And I think, it's worth going through here and, studying this situation and figuring out where we go from here. There's no question that the election laws need to be looked at very closely. We did that a few months ago here, and I'm very safe in saying that I'm very secure in Missouri and our free and free election, and that it's valid. Not that there isn't some issues occasionally, but we have free and fair elections here, and I think they need to be upheld. And Gussie just walked in the door. It's good to have you aboard, Gussie. It's pretty chilly out.
It is, yeah. I don't think it's going to be much of a heat wave from it all today.
No, it's good to have you back. I talked a little bit about, I don't know how long it's been, but I know you've been, you're going on 4 years.
Yeah, I think it's probably been about 2.5, 3 years since
you've been on the radio. So you must have a lot of pent-up discussions that you want to have here, or maybe not.
There's a lot of discussions that need to be had.
There's no question. So, how are things going at, the processing plant as well as the Line Country store? You purchased the front of the store this last year.
Started the retail side in June, and things are going well up there. The processing side is busy, and continues to seem like it's going to stay busy. Everybody needs meat. There's no way around that. Biden, I know, he just put $1 billion toward price discovery and market research in the meat industry, and going into that, I think there'll be good come out of it. I don't think you're going to see meat prices go down. You might see cattle prices get stronger. They're going to discover that the big packers, the margins are big for them, but unless you do it at that level, that's what your meat's going to cost. That's what your end product's going to cost.
Yeah, because there's tremendous advantage in the economies of size,
right,
on the daily operations of what they do and their efficiencies.
But I don't look for $16 ribeyes to ever go away.
You think that's just the way it's going to be?
I think that's when they do price discovery. I think that the farmer will get a little better share. I think that things will tighten up on the processing side as far as their percentage that they're taking now. On the retail side, really, there's not a lot of markup. I mean, you know what it costs off the truck, and you know what they're selling it for at the grocery store, and they don't have their 30% on that.
Yeah, I mean, those margins, they always have, and they always will be tight. You know, there are probably tied buy your hams and when you need to buy your pork loins. And, you know, pork loins are one of the things I used to always watch because, you know, there's a lot of pork steaks made here. And that's not a national phenomenon.
No, that's mostly Missouri.
Midwest.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we made deer season used to, you know, basically in the fall when barbecue season was off, we always used pork loin, our pork butts in those. And they would be like half priced for a whole period of month or two there, you know.
Right.
And that's the time to utilize them and, you know, get some value out of them and be able to, you know, create a little bit of margins there in the process. So you know, you got a complex business model down there, like everybody. You kill all local.
Yes.
Everything that you kill and process is all raised
and sold
50 miles of here. Is that?
I would say for the most part. I mean, we might have a few customers that come from farther. I know that I've got customers that I sell to that come from farther than 50 miles, you know, all over the state of Missouri.
And that's as far as you can go in regard to how you are, well if they're inspected, let's put it that way.
Yes.
Now, when I come to you as a customer and said, Gussie, I want a half a beef.
Right. If you said, you know, my family's coming, I got a beef I want butchered, my family's coming down from Iowa to take a half home, you know, that's totally different. You
don't have to have them.
Those don't have to be inspected.
Just those that are made for wholesale or retail.
Correct.
Is what have to fall underneath the inspection at the killing side of things. But you're inspected anyway. I mean, your facility is inspected.
Right.
The way you process, the way you clean up, you know, everything. There are veterinarians and, you know, state people in there.
Yeah, the whole time we slaughter, and then when you process stuff for wholesale or, yeah, basically for wholesale or for private label, that has to be an inspected process too, if it's going somewhere to be resold. Now, if we're selling it there at the facility, only the slaughter side has to be inspected.
So that's, you know, there's a lot of rules to that or whatever. So what do you think here of the business in regard to the side of things? You've already indicated that, you know, the five biggies, you know, have a great price advantage because of the economies of size. And do you think that there's free and fair competition in that marketplace all the time?
I don't think there is at all. I think that I think you could go up to the five big companies and you could say, I want to build a $15 million facility and I want to buy directly from farmers and I want to process it whatever cost. And I'm sure that they would get on board and they would help you do that, but the second you started making any money at that, they'd run you out of the game. That's how that free and fair market, I think, is.
Free and fair market. Well, there is new processing plants being built. You know, there's a large one coming to Warren County,
yep.
Missouri, and I mean, I don't know that these are absolute facts, but, you know, the information that we've been exposed to indicates a large plant doing several thousand head of cattle a day.
Yes, that's a very large plant.
And we have been
independently owned, I do believe.
It is independently owned by, according to what I've researched, it's the fifth biggest cattle killer in the U.S. It's a family-owned company. There's not stock sold in it, but they're still big boys. You know, they have market niches, and I think, you know, a lot of those market opportunities for those is to some grocery stores, but I think a lot of their focus is to the restaurant trade. You know, it goes for specialty restaurant, and, you know, a lot of that is, you know, focused in on quality.
Quality, you know, and packaging and convenience and ease of use, especially for a restaurant, because you can't go to the store and, I mean, you can from a restaurant point of view, but there's so much more convenient ways for processors to package that cater specifically towards restaurants, and a lot of those big guys that do box beef, they don't package that way.
Well, just like what we get here, you know what I'm saying? You have, you know, cut up pieces. They're all, you know, we do, you know, the briskets are pulled out. You know what I'm saying? They're shrunk wrap, and there's a whole box of them that comes in, and you do it that way. Very few cattle are put on the rail anymore, and actually go, you know, to the butcher shop hanging in halves.
I don't know of any place that you can go and still see a quarter of a beef hanging. That's not a, you know, a processing plant.
Right.
As far as a grocery store, I remember, I mean, it's only been 20 years ago or so, maybe 25, we'd go into Save Lot in Owensville, and they would have quarters of beef. You know, they had a rail in there, but I haven't had that in probably 20 years.
It's been a while. And, you know, those are things that just have, you know, disappeared. So what has been replaced that is what they call box beef. And yes, they're more convenient, you know, to ship. You know, you can get exactly what you want. If you want 10 boxes of ribeyes, or 10 boxes of loin, or 10 boxes of brisket, or 10 boxes of roast, you can get exactly what you want there, and you don't have to take the whole half of the carcass, you know, to do that.
The only issue is if you just want 4 or 5 bone-in rib steaks, you're not going to find them.
That's exactly right. But, you know, the other part of that is there's a certain amount of quality, I think, that is lost because when those cattle, you know, come in on rail, you know, they hung longer, you know, they aged longer, and, you know, that helps the quality because they shrink, and a lot of the water dissipates, and it allows, you know, the fat, the marbling in the meat to be exposed and start helping break down, you know, the muscle tissue that makes a lot leaner meat. So when you shrink wrap them and you take a loin out and you put those directly and you shrink wrap them, there's some of that aging that does occur, but not nearly as well.
Right, it happens a lot better in a rolling environment, or where it can get to the oxygen. I think scientifically they say 10 days is the sweet spot where the amount of loss, the amount that you gain from breaking down of the fat is justifiable enough to how much you have to trim off because of loss, you know, dry rot or whatever. So they say financially 10 days is this.
We try to age ours longer than
we
that.
do, yeah. 3 weeks is what we do.
You know, we try to age them longer here, and it makes, we think it makes a lot better quality, you know, and it does make, you know, better. No, I don't think there'd be any argument with any scientist saying that aging 21 days does not have a significant improvement on the quality that you're exposed to.
As long as it's got the fat cover to age up.
Right, it's got to have an adequate cover to do that. But those are nuances that people just don't understand, and that part of what makes, you know, local processors that their cost increased by doing that, because you're letting them cattle hang in a cooler,
Right.
they shrink, and to the consumer end, that shrink, on an 800-pound carcass, it's going to shrink whatever it is per day. Let's just say they shrink 4%. That's 30 pounds. You know what I'm saying? That is lost. It helps that quality, but the amount of dollars that you bring in per carcass is a lot less.
It is, yeah, and people also, they'll say, I want, if they don't want, say they want 100 ribeyes, cut and trimmed, you can get ribeyes in for, probably 12.
I don't know.
$12 a pound box right now, maybe 14.
That's as cheap as they've been for a long time.
Right, but they don't understand by the time that you cut that,
Ends off.
you cut the ends, you get all the good steaks, and you trim the fat. They don't understand why it's $16 a pound. Well, you had to throw away, or
Right.
all that fat.
Had to trim them, and that's no. I get it. I just want people to get it. But the processing itself. I mean, you do processing one at a time.
All the hamburger from that particular beef stays with that particular beef. So
Single
all the
source.
hamburger, yep, single source.
So when that, it's not mixed, it's not blended.
Right.
It is what it is from one animal, and there's a lot of difference in prime hamburger, or I'm going to call it prime hamburger, that comes off of a fat steer weighing 1,300 pounds, and that is ground there versus I don't know that there's any store in the country, that only kills and sells prime hamburger that is not cow meat. Cows will do they're the lean part of that equation. So if you take the fat off of that steer and mix it in with cow beef, you got a decent product.
It is, yeah, and
Because a lot of times the whole cow is put in there.
probably the hardest thing, even farmers and local people, even people that have worked in processing plants, they want these wonderful marbled ribeyes, this and that, and then special note at the bottom, hamburger 90% lean. Happens all the time. Well, that's not going to happen. Like, you're going to get this animal's burger, you want your steaks prime and your hamburger 90 lean. That's not something that's going to be feasible.
No, I mean, it's not feasible, and besides that, if they really knew what they were asking for, they don't want them 90% lean.
Right.
Because it dries it out, in my opinion, way too much. So 80% lean, is that where you guys are at, kind of?
80-85 is probably the best. I think 80-85 is the best because you get your medium rare hamburger, it's still going to be good and juicy. And if you're too fatty, if you're around that 70%, you almost have to cook it a little bit more. You're going to have a little more shrink on your burger. The quality and the taste will be excellent, but you'll have more shrink, and you'll have to cook it longer to make it more palatable when it's that. But I think an 80-85 medium rare burger is about as good as it gets.
So, and there you go again, that loss. You put the hamburger on there. If you want a third of a pound hamburger, quarter of a pound, you got that cooking weight. That's
Right.
what goes on the grill, when you're cooking. And, there's shrink involved with that too. And the higher fat you got, the more shrink you're going to have in that burger. So you might start out at a third pound and end up, when you weigh it, when you're done, a quarter pound.
Right.
Is what the serving of that really is. So, I mean, there's just an awful lot. So the plant that's going in at Warrenton, understand that we've been told that it's going to be a cow plant also. They're going to kill cull cows.
Right.
Which, will bring the water, in my opinion, will help the price of cold cows across the whole state of Missouri. Missouri has 2 million cows,
Right.
about yet.
Right, and Missouri, that was one of the questions that I had when I heard that there was a plant that big coming to Missouri, is we don't have the feedlots
We do not.
here to supply that. We don't because of the amount of moisture that we have here. We have too much rain to feed outside like a lot of people do. The health and the temperature swings to keep those cattle healthy. You almost have to have them inside in Missouri if you're going to feed.
And that's what we've discovered also, and that's what we're doing.
But Missouri, for the most part, doesn't have those kind of facilities around yet. But we do have the second biggest calf, herd in the nation. So all these cull cows, I mean, it's if you're going to put a plant in, that's what I would do, because
Sure.
put it in Missouri where there's the most cows, the most cull cows, and the trucking is way less than.
Trucking's way less, and both ways. When you look at the population around Missouri, you're going to find, the primary hamburger eaters, you know what I'm saying, are going to be within a day's drive, what I'm saying, of those plants. And, the cattle in and the cattle out that are processed are also going to be there. So, there's going to be, transportation is one of the big keys, in regard to efficiency. So, there's going to be a lot more efficiency, of keeping them cattle close. And it's also going to help markets because you don't have to put maybe, I don't know if they're going to buy directly from farmers or not, but there's some major sale barns right around here within an hour drive,
Yeah.
Of that, where, I don't know, maybe within an hour, maybe a third of the cows in the state of Missouri are culled out of that area.
I would say, I mean, I think there's 4 or 5 sale barns that run 2,000 head a week, probably within an hour of here, and I would say 15% of what they run is probably cows. Cows.
Yes, and I haven't been through the math here in Illinois, but let's just say there's 2 million cows in the state of Missouri, and let's say that there's a 10% cull rate, on old cows.
Right.
So that's 200,000 head a year, correct? If they kill 2,000 a day, and that's just all cows. I know they're going to kill other things too.
Right.
But if they kill, 2,000 cows a day,
Keeps them busy for 3.5 months.
well, that's 10,000 a week, right?
Right.
At 5 days, at 10,000 a week. What would that be? 10,000 a week times 50. That'll take care of all the cull cows in the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
Without any whatever. And I don't know where the next closest cull cow place is, but there again, if you look at that day around there, that's a major situation.
No, I think that your 10% is going to go up if you can ship a cow, and she's worth 15% more than what she was when she wasn't. I mean, there's been a lot of times when you ship cows, like, well, she's bred, but she ain't worth nothing. We might as well just keep her. But
We've never did that.
if they're worth something,
Totally right, and we're guilty.
your 10% might be 20%.
We are totally guilty on that. There's no question. I knew her grandma, you know what I'm saying, and she was one of the best cows Dad ever had.
Yeah.
So I know
She's been a
she's
pain in my butt for 15 years. I
just hate to get rid of her. She's the lead cow, and yada yada, and well, she looked good and fat though. She's good to keep along the side of the road because, So, Biden here, this price discovery situation. I mean, this $1 billion, part of it's going to go apparently for, helping, the process, and but a lot of it is dedicated to price discovery. And, you know, that's a very, very controversial, well, it's not controversial to me, because I think it should be, but, you know, so many of the feedlots that feed out tens of thousands of cattle, you know, these cattle are contracted. Most of these cattle are contracted on a future market the day that they go into that feedlot.
Or even before.
Or even before that. And, you know, the processing, the big guys help them do that. They'll help them lock that price in, you know, there and there. And let's just say that, you know, you put cattle in a lot today, the first of the year, and you're going to be 6 months on feed, 180 days. So June contract, you know, yada, yada, yada. But that June contract is, let's say, $1.50, you know, so they're locked in, and there's a price guaranteed there, right?
Right.
I mean, they make it easy for the feedlots, you know, because they've got cattle guaranteed, you know what I'm saying, coming in there at whatever that price is. But then A, B, C, D, E farmers, you know, out here that want to sell, you know, and don't have the ability to lock in 50,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds of meat on a given day at a given time, and then do all the paperwork, you know what I'm saying, it takes to put the puts and those things in there. They come into June and, you know, oh, it was $1.50, but the big boys have closed this margin up, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So
30% of the cattle out here are bought, instead of guaranteed at $1.50, they bought at $1.20.
Right. Oh yeah, and especially happens because there's a lot more spring calving cows in this country, and so your June, July, August. I mean, those are your heavy months on the fat cattle. A lot of them butchered right then. So, you know, the big guys, they contract out theirs way ahead of time, and then your farmer, if he finishes it out, is, you know, I think last year he got stuck with about $1.07.
Right, and you know, the same calves, you know, that was contracted a year earlier got $1.30.
Right.
And you know, that part of it, you know what I'm saying, that's part of that price discovery, but you know, it is not at all of it either, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, but it is a huge part of it, and I don't know how to, well, kind of know how to change that, but you know, it's a complicated thing. The whole thing of this is that we're talking cattle. We shouldn't even be talking that, because all the money is made on paper in this situation anyway.
Right.
You know, somebody's sitting somewhere and studying these graphs and supply and knows these things, and they're out 2 years ahead of us, contracting corn and feeder cattle, you know, and there, so we can make this work. And they do, and they buy and sell this on the futures thing, and farmers can't take that risk and can't do that.
They can, but I think the price is, it can't, even, you know, they do this price discovery, I still don't see it going down for, you know, it's $1.35.
It's supposed to go up. I mean, the whole thing of it is that, you know, you're going to know better than I, but, you know, in the last year or so, that the big packers have made, you know, somewhere between $700 and $900 a head, you know what I'm saying, profit on each and every cow that they processed. You know, you look at that, $1,000, you know, Dusty, we have that calf, you know, for 2 years. And if we make $100 on that or $200 on that, by having it for, you know, 700 days, and they're having it 3 days, and they, you know, the value of that increases that much just for that period, a few days that they own that calf. Does that make sense? And, you know, is there any reason that there's not a change need to be made in the marketplace.
There definitely needs to be a change made. You know, there is a lot of labor, a lot of cost that went into them, you know, getting that thing from that whole carcass into that box out to the retailer. But they shouldn't be profiting $700 to $900
Ahead.
No.
Well, so you mentioned labor. How difficult is it for you to find the labor that you need and get the, obviously not, well, you might be in a unique situation because I know you're very fortunate to have some retired meat cutters,
right,
that come in there and are helping you. But how difficult is it to find good help and train them and make meat cutters out of them?
We've been really extraordinarily blessed in the employment area. Just there's a lot of good people around that are, you know, good work ethic, and but they're all older than me. Don't know that we can.
They're not all older than you. You got some young guys running around there, but
Not in the
plant. Well,
not in the processing side. We don't. But, yeah, it's hard. It's a hard time. I mean, there's more jobs out there than there are employees to an extent, and I think that's a self-made problem. I think that has a lot to do with COVID. And, you know, people not having, or getting double money for working part-time for a little period of time. And
so the work environment itself, though, it's clean.
yeah, it's clean. You know, you're not standing in the mud. You're not outside. It's
Comfortable.
yeah,
It's repetitious
it is.
to a big degree, but you guys change that off too, don't you? To some degree, or do you got a sawer, or you know?
I mean, we go from beef to pork.
See, that's a big thing. All local.
Yep.
Every animal is looked at. Is there consistency in the animals to some degree that you do, or is that a huge? It isn't a pork, correct, or not?
There's a fair amount. I would say pork is more consistent on the average, but we do everything from, you know, grass-fed to corn-fed to 1,000-pound finished cattle to, you know, some Holsteins that'll be 1,400 pounders when they're finished, to cows for hamburger that are, you know, 800-pound size, but just huge old carcasses. Old cows.
And those are all consumer.
Yeah.
I mean, those go.
Yeah, people
that want them, and you don't use those cow beef, you know what I'm
No.
saying, to sell through the store or nothing like that. They would go directly back to the consumer who brought them in.
Yeah, there's families that bring in a couple old cows a year and
Give the hamburger out to the kids.
Yep.
You know, and that's good.
Yeah.
You know, it absolutely works. So where do you think the future lies in the processing side of things? I've always, you know what my kind of sidebar is that I think we've taken a lot of entrepreneurship, you know, out of the processing thing because we bottlenecked it to, you know, one or two ideas in regard to that. But if you look back to the old time smokehouse books and, you know, how they used to do it, there was a lot of creativity in the processing of cattle.
there is, and I think that's
And hogs.
one thing that will come about with, you know, price discovery. I think it'll be beneficial for the smaller guys, but I think there's not really much as far as small scale, more automatic. Everything is large scale, it's all automatic. But there's no small scale, you know, smaller semi-automatic equipment. And I think that, you know, if you can build those things to make it.
Such as skinning a cow.
Sure. Yeah. Something that.
You guys are back there, hogs and cattle both. I don't know how many knife strokes it takes to pull that hide off, but a lot. How long does it take you to do a 1,200-pound steer?
About 40 minutes.
And that's two of you working at it? Or
That's
three?
from the minute it gets stuck to bleed out to when it's in the cooler. That's 3 of us.
3 of you, it takes 40 minutes to dehide that.
Yeah, 30 to 40. If we got 4 people, we can cut it down to 30 minutes to get the hide off, get it gutted, get it split, get it washed, get it in the cooler.
So 4 people, 30 minutes. So you'll do 2 an hour.
Right.
And, I mean, right there's a lot of cost.
Yeah, you got 4
You
people.
got 4 people there, and you may not, say $15 or even $20 an hour to what it costs to plant. $300 an hour.
Right.
So just to get the hide off and get that hanging in the cooler, you've got a half an hour. You got $120 in it.
Right. And then you can do
Wait a minute, is that right? 4 people.
4 people, $20 an hour.
$20 an hour. That's 80.
Yep.
Okay. And they can only do 2 an hour.
Yep.
So $160 in that.
No.
Or whatever.
Never have followed your math real well.
Okay, so, I mean, those are things that, whereas if you go through the last packing house that I was at, it's a line that just starts and goes. Now, there's a lot of automation in there, but basically, it is all done by robots. I mean, the cow is killed.
Yeah, everything's.
Hydraulics come in there, lift it up, something makes the cut line, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
On the thing,
Hogs.
and then,
That's why they gotta be a certain size. You gotta
Right.
be between. I think the lowest, like those plants will take, could be a 600-pound carcass is the smallest. Up to, goes to a different plant if it's over a certain size hanging weight. So, you've got basically your 1,000 to 1,500-pound cattle. That's all that plant's gonna do. That's what their line is set up for.
but that's all automation.
Right.
I mean, there's people that are watching that, but, they'll pull that hide off and they'll probably do 100 an hour. I mean, I don't know exactly, but they'll do a lot. Well, 2,400 head they're going to kill.
Right.
They got one line, so use your math, or somebody use the math to figure that out. But they can do a lot more productivity. There's no question about it, which you will never be able to totally compete with.
Correct.
Okay, well, do you see a future in the beef business?
I do, yeah. I think there's been some hard years in the beef business, probably some hard 15 years, I think 2000.
I'd say pretty hard,
No, I mean,
50 years that I've been in it.
was it 2011?
8? Well, whatever.
There was some decent prices there.
Yeah.
But prior to that,
It's been a lean time, and it's been a lean business. I mean, there had been, some profit opportunity, in it for a very short period of time. But, most of the people that are in the beef business, I shouldn't say it, but most of the individuals that are in it do it because they love to do it.
right.
And they're trying to, sell an item that is superior in quality, and
Something they can put their name on, whether that's grass-fed or corn-fed. Everybody's got their own, but something that they're proud to bring to a consumer.
and make them happy. That's what what the cattle business is kind of all about, because, you know, it will never be the cheapest meat.
No,
You know.
beef is always going to be, you know, the premier protein, I think.
It's gonna cost the most money. There's no question about it at all. Do you see, like in the cow-calf business, what do you see? How do farmers reach a level, you know, of efficiencies and consistency when we're all independent thinkers and we all, you know, try to do what we want to do in our own way?
Well, I don't know if you can reach, you know, a unanimous decision with anybody from any walk of life or any party, no matter what you're talking about. But I do think that everybody's got the same goal in the beef business, and that is
To stay in the beef business.
not to lose money, obviously, but to have good, healthy cattle. You know, whether you're going to be a cow-calf guy, or you're going to finish, or you're going to, you know, stock, you want to put pounds on, and you want them to grow, and you want them to get to the market quickly and efficiently. And I think everybody can agree on that. Even the grass-fed people. Theirs takes 2 years, takes longer, but they want to do it as quickly and as efficiently as what they can. So I think everybody's on the same page as far as the goal, the end goal of what they want to present. They want it to be superior and a good product.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Hey, we're going to take a little break here on KTUI, 1560 AM, 94.1 FM, or possibly you're watching us on this cold morning on Facebook Live. And Gusty, I'm going to give these to you, because my voice is kind of giving out, and you can do what you always did here, tell people in our neck of the woods what's going on this weekend.
Sure, the Owensville Moose Lodge has a BB gun shoot on Sunday, January the 9th at 1 o'clock. Guns and BBs will be provided. Prizes every round, fun for the whole family. It's open to all members and qualified guests of the Owensville Moose Lodge. And coming up here at the White Mule Winery, this Friday, we have steak, shrimp, or chicken parmesan. And Saturday, of course, we have our steak dinners, along with pizza and hamburgers. That's available noon to 5. And then on Sundays, we have our fried chicken, 11 to 3:30. $14, all you can eat. Of course, as always, we try to provide people a good experience when they come here.
And if I'm here, my comments are usually free.
That is true.
And how about your store? Tell us a little bit about what you do each and every day. I know you put a lot of hours in there, and I know you're only 6 months into the thing, and there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to do.
Right.
But I know that you're providing a service there in that community that people come in here every week and say that they appreciate. But it's a lot of work, and but you serve lunch.
I serve lunch. We serve our own hamburger, that we grow right here. So we do a lot of cheeseburgers, bacon cheeseburgers with the bacon that we cure there. I do pizzas, all the toppings are stuff that we make there. Sausage, summer sausage, hamburger.
And some great old recipes that you and Ed do in regard to.
And I have a full line of our retail meats that, all from locally processed animals, on our sausages and our own hams and we cure and bacons we cure. And I've got a grocery store, just kind of stuff you need, flour, sugar, snacks, beer, obviously, wine. Wine. I've got a place up top like a seating area that'll hold about 40 to 50 people. I do birthday parties and events up there, and I've catered a few of those, brisket and roast beef or fried chicken,
And you have a dinner every month or two?
Yes, some kind of special dinner event once a quarter, sell tickets, and it's kind of either a date night or a mom's night out, or
Sure.
just something for the people in the area to get together.
Very good. Well, Gutsy, it has been a pleasure, spending the last, probably, I don't think we've talked for even 50 minutes for the last couple of years face to face.
I wouldn't argue that, but
Maybe I've talked,
it is good to be back and do the radio.
It is, and it's good to have you, and we hopefully will do it some more. And thank you for being along here today, and hopefully there's some big things happening along the Rock Island Trail. There's a grants that are available now since the state has taken it over for towns and communities, and hopefully next week we can get somebody to talk about those. And
what a wonderful opportunity.
It is for all of us in agritourism and what we are, and I know not all of our neighbors love it, Gus. We know that, but I think is the most of it that most of them do and can appreciate, the opportunity, that I think we're all going to have on it. It's not going to be a short-term thing, but for the most part, I think it will create opportunity for our unique area.
Well, you don't have to love every aspect of it, but you can be excited about showing our way of life out here to a whole different group of people that'll be able to appreciate things that they probably never knew.
And Gus, I don't know how else to share values other than going there and seeing it. And when you travel abroad or anywhere, just kind of how it is. You go to a particular area, you catch on, in a very short period of time what their quality of life is.
That's
exactly why you travel. And to be able to catch a corner of how people live and what their quality of life is, and try to replicate that.
Or at least enjoy it while you're there.
Exactly. Hey, great to have you aboard here this morning. Keep warm. I don't know what it is now, but it was like 16 degrees. But probably.
I think it's going to get up to 17, I think. 17.
Yeehaw. And thanks for putting up with me this morning with my cough and, doing whatever. So God bless you. Hopefully we'll be here next week and do our best to talk about the Rock Island Rail. Good to be along.
California officials are citing what they refer to as an astonishing spike in coronavirus cases from overwhelmed hospitals.